In this week 5 lecture video recording, we will discuss some important concepts and mechanisms of energy transport in analogy to the momentum transport that we have discussed in week 1. Regarding the heat transport, some materials can conduct heat fast, whereas some others they basically becomes an insulator to the heat. Okay, the physical property that describes the rate at which heat can be conducted is called a thermal conductivity. There are 4 types of heat transport. The first one is the molecular heat transport. It's basically represented by the heat conduction. It can happen in a solid, liquid, or gas. And then the second one involves a bulk motion of a fluid, and thus it depends on the density of the fluid. The next one is diffusive heat transport, which occurs at the same time with the mass transfer basically. And then heat transport can also occur when there is no medium, such as what happened with the sun. In here we only focus on the first 2 mechanisms, the conductions and the convection. In order for us to derive a Fourier's law of heat conductions, we need to look into the similar example that we derive for the momentum transport, especially for the Newton's law of conduction. So imagine you have 2 plates with the area of A on the top and on the bottom. So this one is A and this one is an A as well. And then initially these 2 plates has the same temperature of T0. However, at time T equals 0, then suddenly the plate on the bottom is heated to a higher temperature T1. So essentially there is a temperature gradient that will develop between the bottom plate and the top plate. So with increasing T, then a temperature profile will develop as becomes like this. Okay, this is with increasing T. And then when the time becomes very large, then you basically there is a development of a linear temperature gradient from the top to the bottom. And for this particular case, then we can find out the relationship between the Q or the heat flow with the for example with the A, with the distance. Okay, as we can see in our previous slides in here, basically the heat flow is proportional to the area and proportional to the temperature difference, but inversely proportional to the distance between the plates, and also proportional to the constant, which is called a thermal conductivity. Okay, so in the next slide in here, these finite difference equations can be converted into a differential form. So in the differential form in here, it basically applies to the slab, to a slab as the slab is approaching 0. So we are dealing with the continuous quantity in here. Okay, in here we can see that the heat flux in here is expressed as the heat flow per unit area. So it will be joule per second meter square if the unit is in SI. Okay, what is important to see in here is that this quantity in here has a minus sign. Why it has a minus sign is because the temperature actually increases from the top to the bottom. So the dt over dy has a positive sign as the direction goes from the top to the bottom. However, the heat transport is actually transferred from the hot surface to the cold surface. So the heat transport actually occurring in opposite direction. So this is basically the heat transport directions. Therefore, the heat transport has an opposite sign to the directions where the temperature gradient increases. Okay, so that is why we have a negative sign in this equation. It's very important that we understand these things. Okay, That in here what we said is basically heat slides downhill on the temperature versus distance graph, and this is similar to the case that we have for the Newton's law of viscosity. And if the temperature varies in all three directions, what we can see in here is that the heat flux in the x direction will happen if we have a temperature gradient in the x directions. The heat transport in the y direction will happen if we have a temperature gradient in the y directions. The heat transport in the z directions will happen if we have a temperature gradient in the z directions. And this can be represented in the general vector form as in equation 6. Equation 6 is only valid if the material is isotropic, meaning that the material has no preferred direction, so that the heat is conducted with the same thermal conductivity K in all directions. If in some other cases where we have a non-isotropic materials, such as non-cubic crystal, fibrous material, or laminates, then equation 7 can be used, where K represents a symmetric second order tensor called the thermal conductivity tensor. In polymeric liquid case, for example, the thermal conductivity is enhanced by 20% in x directions and suppressed by 10% in the z directions. Or in equation 6, we can also include a term containing a time derivative of the heat flux, but the experimental evidence does not suggest that such model actually exists. Okay, so we will not go and dwell into this type of model. Okay, and then once we develop this Fourier's law of heat conductions, then we can see that the shear stress has the same form, except in here only the heat transport has the directions, whereas in the shear stress case the velocity and hence the momentum has the directions, and then the momentum transport itself has the directions. So that's why for the shear stress we are dealing with the second order tensor, whereas in the heat flux case we are only dealing with the vector. Okay, and in both cases this thermal conductivity and also this viscosity is actually characteristic of the material. It depends on the material, and also as we change the temperature and the pressure, the value of the K and the value of the mu will change. Okay, so it's very important to notice in here that energy is a scalar, whereas momentum itself is a vector. So heat flux is a vector with 3 components, whereas the momentum flux is a second order tensor with 9 components. In analogy with the kinematic viscosity that we have before, where basically we have this quantity is defined as mu divided by the rho, or the viscosity divided by the density. In here we also have the thermal diffusivity, and which is defined as the thermal conductivity divided by the density multiplied by the heat capacity at constant pressure. The thermal diffusivity has the same units with the kinematic viscosity. So when they are divided against basically divided against each other, basically then we have a dimensionless number. One example is the Prandtl number in here. The Prandtl number is the ratio between the kinematic viscosity or the momentum diffusivity against the thermal diffusivity, and this Prandtl number in here shows the ratio of the momentum transport to the heat transport basically. So if the Prandtl number is high, that means momentum transport is more enhanced relative to the heat transport, whereas if the Prandtl number is very low, that means the heat transport process is much more enhanced compared to the momentum transport process. And then in the next few slides we will show you tables and where it basically shows the thermal conductivity values of different components: gases, liquids, metal, and solids. What is important in here is to basically check and see on this left hand side table in here we have the summary of the units for the heat flux, and we have 3 types of units in here: SI, CGS, and British unit. On the right hand side table in here we can see that as we increase the temperature, then the thermal conductivity increases. And then these are the typical thermal conductivity magnitude for the gases, and they are quite low. Moving on into the next slides, in here we see the thermal conductivity values for non-metallic liquids, which is higher than the gases, and then also the thermal conductivities of the liquid metals, for example. So liquid metals has a higher thermal conductivity than the non-metallic liquids, for example. And the thing that is interesting in here is that for non-metallic liquids, as you increase the temperature, then the thermal conductivity actually decreases. Okay, whereas in here for the metallic liquids, when you increase the temperature, then the thermal conductivity actually increases. Then in the next slide in here, we also show you the thermal conductivity magnitude for solids. As you can see in here, for solids, when the temperature increases, then the thermal conductivity also increases. And we can see in here that the thermal conductivity is very for the thermal insulator material, the thermal conductivity is quite low, whereas for those metallic based materials, then the thermal conductivity are quite high. Same with the momentum transport case. In the heat transport, we will use shell energy balances as well, and conservation law. Basically, the quantity of interest in here is the combined energy flux factor, which is a combination of three terms: 1, 2, and 3. The first one is the convective energy flux. The second one is the rate of doing work by molecular mechanisms, and the last one is the rate of transporting heat by molecular mechanisms. All the term in equation 11 has the same sign convention. Okay, so if, for example, if we define if we have an example of Ex, that means that this energy transport occurring in the positive x direction per unit area per unit time. And then the total molecular stress tensor can be split into two parts, so that equation 11 can be expressed in terms of the enthalpy. So some people they normally choose this equation 12 instead of equation 11 to work with. Table 9.8-1 basically summarizes the different elements of the energy flux factor and combined energy flux factor. And what the thing that is important in here is, as you can see, we can have two different representations of the combined energy flux factor. Before we move into that thing, then we can see that in here there is a term called the rate of energy production. This rate of energy production can come from different sources. It can come from the degradation of the electrical energy into heat. It can also be produced from the nuclear reactions or from the viscous dissipation. So as the fluid move with the quite high velocity, for example, then some part of it can be converted to heat, and also the heat can also come from the chemical reactions. Equation 10, as we see earlier, these equations in here. Okay, this equation 10 in here is a statement of the first law of thermodynamics. It is limited to the open system at steady state conditions. Once we write equation 10 for a thin slab or shell of material, then we can let the thickness approach 0, and then we will get an ordinary differential equations. That ordinary differential equations can be integrated using the boundary conditions. In the heat transport problems, normally there are 4 types of boundary conditions, where the first one is the temperature specified at a particular surface, and the second one is the heat flux specified at a particular surface. And then if we have a solid-solid interface, for example, the temperature or the heat flux normal to the interfaces can be assumed. And then the last one is at a solid fluid interface, Then we can use a Newton's law of cooling in here, where basically connected the heat the heat transfer between the solid surface with the bulk fluid temperature. Okay, this particular quantity of H in here is called the heat transfer coefficient. All four types of the boundary conditions will be illustrated in the following examples. Okay, in this video I will conclude it in here, because for the first example we will discuss on the separate video. Thank you for listening.